So what do you do for vacation now? I mean, or is life a vacation? How do you get that? Have you managed to get like the perfect blend of exploring family and work, or how do you manage it?
So we, you know, essentially we're always on vacation.
Oh, shut up.
but we definitely do have defined moments that we say, okay, this is our vacation. You know, prior to COVID, we would go take a cruise, 2 or 3 times a year, where you're physically shutting things off, being on a cruise ship, you're away from the elements, you have people catering to you. That was easy for us to kind of take a vacation at that point in time. You know, with it being COVID, or I'm not even sure if it's past COVID anymore or still COVID, or, it's a little bit more difficult. We do pick certain destination places where we'll go into an RV park that's a little bit more resort style. So like this, we spent 2 weeks down in Key West, Florida, so we kind of called that our vacation. We were able to enjoy, aside from going on a cruise ship, that's about as close as you can get to feeling like you're in a Caribbean island.
Yep.
We enjoyed those amenities. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were, our RV was getting repair work done to it because we actually got rear-ended while we were in Florida. So we took it back to the manufacturer for them to fix it. And we were out of our RV for a little over 2.5 months. So during that time, we spent 3 weeks up in Alaska. We flew to Alaska and basically hoteled it and, used the car during that period of time. So, we just kind of pick various destination points and this is our vacation,
What goes into the planning of, so you said you like to spend most winters in Florida, but when you're looking ahead this winter to the 2022 summer, is it you who decides like where we should all go to with the fifth wheel, or is it you and your wife, or do you get the kids involved? How does that work?
So this winter, so far, what we plan for Florida is a bunch of doctor appointments. So our winters in Florida aren't vacations; they're essentially opportunities to get caught up with life and doctor appointments, and your eye exam, your dental exams, your yearly checkups, what have you. So that's about as far as we plan for Florida for this winter. Hopefully we'll get a chance to get down to the Keys again, and spend a couple of weeks down there again. I know my kids are anxious to go to Disney World, and we'll kind of see how that environment is. I know that last year it wasn't necessarily the best environment into given COVID. See how that is again, this winter, that maybe that'll be an opportunity for them to get to Disney World again. But to answer your question, I mean, essentially this winter, Florida, our main focus is, let's get the doctor appointments knocked out so that we can go back to enjoying life.
Yeah. And then when it comes to thinking, because obviously at some point in time, you're going to think about the summer of 2022. Do you, as a family, have a process for working out where you're going to go to and what you're going to do for that summer? Because I'm assuming you're going to, like this summer, you've been Idaho and all over the place. Is that a family decision, or do you have a bucket list, or how do you go about working out where to go next?
That's a great question. I mean, um, prior to this summer, our focus was getting all 50 states, getting our children to see all 50 states. So now that that has been checked off, I think it's now a matter of, okay, let's go back to some of our favorites and enjoy them. We definitely, there's a long list of favorites. You know, Utah and Colorado and Arizona and Idaho and even Montana and Wyoming again, Maine, New Hampshire. There's a long list of favorites. We haven't thought that far ahead quite yet, but that's definitely something that we need to think about here soon and start planning for.
And do you get your kids involved with the sort of day-to-day running of the fifth wheel? Everything from navigation to hitching, unhitching, I don't know, whatever else is involved with it. Is that what you view part of their education to be, or how does that work?
My 5-year-old is probably more engaged in that than my 12-year-old. Again, my 12-year-old is autistic, so.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
It's trying to comprehend some of that is, just it doesn't work sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back upon a story from I think it was 3 years ago. We went to Hawaii. And there was a moment that we looked at both of our children and we said, do you realize how lucky you are that, probably most of your friends from school will never, ever get an opportunity to come to Hawaii? And they both just kind of looked at us like, what are you talking about? This is just another day, So I don't know that they necessarily understand or appreciate how lucky they are to have the life that they have and traveling and getting a chance to see all of this, because they've never experienced the other side of it. So that's something that we're trying to be more intentional with, that they can understand, what these experiences really are, because it's not normal to most people out there.
I agree. It's not normal at all. Well, and I'm not saying that in a bad. I was almost saying that in a sorrowful way. It's not normal at all, because almost anybody can achieve it if they really set their mind to it. But how do you and your wife manage the kids' schooling? You said you homeschool, but getting more granular than that, do you have a set routine of the day? Is there a set amount of work you want them to achieve in a week? And how do you manage being both mum, dad, and teacher at the same time?
Yeah, definitely. I got to give my wife credit for the homeschooling. I definitely try to help out whenever I can, but she is definitely the homeschooler. She is definitely the teacher. And that's a routine of, every morning they pull out their school books. They know what chapters they need to complete. And she's there to help and to mentor and to teach them through those chapters every day. We do tend to take off during the summertime, like most schools do, to give them a break from school. Their break is not necessarily a 3-month break like most of them are. It tends to be like a month or, a month and a half, because we take, you take breaks during the year, so like over the Thanksgiving, time period, if we're visiting family during that period, we'll take a week off there. And over Christmas, take off, a couple of weeks. And over Easter, take off a week or two. But essentially, the good part for them is they don't know it, that, a lot of the field trips that we're taking, they're learning without it being a forced learn, I guess you could say, or a textbook learn. They're learning every day in some aspects, because we stay very active in, field trips and exploring and hiking and going out and enjoying life.
So today's guest, at one point in time, handed over his house keys, picked up the keys for a fifth wheel, packed his family up in the fifth wheel, and I don't think he's ever looked back. Tom Fromm, welcome to the podcast, and tell me, what was that day like?
Thank you for having me. That you're exactly right. As far as not looking back, we're 5 years into this and enjoying every last bit of it. That day was very sweet. I mean, it took quite a bit to get to that day. My wife had some prerequisites that need to occur before that could occur, and I got impatient. I was ready to go, so we kind of compromised. I told her that we had the means to buy a used fifth wheel, and I said, let's go to Florida just for the winter and see what happens, and we'll go from there. And that's what we did. We packed up. We left the day after Thanksgiving. We left for Florida for 4 months, and wouldn't you know it, while we were in Florida, everything that was the prerequisite for her occurred, and probably the biggest one was selling the house. So. God has a plan, and His plan worked out for us, because during that 4 months, our house sold, and literally all we did was come back from Florida to back to Pennsylvania to pack up the last couple of belongings and head right back to Florida after we sold our house.
Wow. And you guys weren't tempted to keep the house then and rent it out and have that as a place to go back to? That wasn't a thing for you?
That was not a thing for me, because I look at that as just another set of headaches to deal with that I just didn't want to deal with. The toilet clogging up, or the grass needing to be mowed, or just regular maintenance. No, not interested.
That's fair enough. It's fair enough. We've just bought a homestead here in South Africa, and we're struggling to sell our city house that we're in at the moment before we move there. And everybody keeps saying, "Oh, you should rent your house in the city. You'll get a really good return on it, and this, that, and the other." And I'm just thinking about the 12-hour drive back here from our homestead if something goes wrong, and how tenants never look after your property and all the headaches. And I just want shot of the place. I don't want to be held back by it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, all it takes is one bad tenant, and then there goes your investment.
That's it. Wow. So it takes a brave and slightly crazy person to go and step away from the rest of the world and say, whatever the rest of the world thinks we should be doing, we're going to do our own version of it. What was it that led you personally along that journey to saying, I'm done with this, and actually living on the road with my family is what's right for me?
Well, one of those, I mean, there was many items, but one of those items, I remember having a conversation with the school district with my daughter. They did not like the fact that I was pulling her out of school quite frequently to take her on family vacations to explore and learn the real world.
Mm.
Um, started they started threatening us with, well, if you take her out of school too many more times, we're going to have to, basically turn you in. And that was the point in time that I looked at them across the table and said, uh, what paperwork do I need to fill out for her to be homeschooled? Because obviously this is not the place for her. And that was the best decision that we've done. Not only from her learning, because my oldest daughter, who's now 12, is also autistic. So she doesn't learn like everybody else in the classroom. She can't sit at a desk, 8 hours a day. So that has been very good for her learning. But it's also been great for our family. Our family is a lot closer now than what we ever were. Obviously living in 400 square feet versus 7,000 square feet kind of forces that a little bit. But never once have we looked at each other and said, do you think we made the wrong decision?
It's interesting. You said, just going back a couple of sentences, you said that your daughter was out on vacation with you, learning about the real world, and that almost that the schools don't understand that there is a world outside of school. And it appears to be getting that gap between the real world and school seems to be getting wider. Why do you think that is at the moment?
I wish I knew. I mean, I've been, I'm now 5 years removed from it, so it's a little tougher to talk about from a school perspective. But I know from our perspective, I mean, we also have a 5-year-old daughter as well. So this is all she knows. She's been traveling now for 5 years. But my children have seen all 50 states. They have been to most of the national parks. They have explored our history one-on-one, and has learned about our country, where a textbook just cannot provide that to you.
I hear you. I've got a 5-year-old daughter as well, and where she's just starting school. Well, she'll start proper school in January here in South Africa, and I've been very, very careful as to what school she goes to. In order, like at the school she goes to, they do a morning of the week. They go and look at the school's got stables full of horses. And one morning of the week, a class takes it in turns to go and have horse riding lessons, but also to look after the horses, muck them out, feed them, all the rest of that stuff. And that's just an example. Because I don't think that human beings are designed to be trapped with maybe 40 other human beings in a closed box for 6 hours a day being told what to think. I don't think that's the right way. I don't think that's the way people learn.
No, definitely not. And, and everybody's wired differently, but, at least for me, and, I can see it in my daughters, for them to physically see, touch, feel, experience, I think it's, in my opinion, it's a much more understanding, learning environment for them.
Yeah, completely. So we'll come back to the kids in a bit, but obviously one of the burning questions is when you start living on the road as opposed to in a bricks and mortar, or I think another phrase people use is bricks and sticks property. How do you manage the finances and the work side of things? Because a lot of employers will object to having somebody who works for them just disappear off for 12 months or longer in a fifth wheel or RV.
Well, and that's, you've hit on a couple of points right there. I mean, from a finance perspective, my finances shifted. It shifted from a large mortgage payment to now probably our largest bill is groceries and fuel. You know, so from a groceries perspective, I can, that is what it is. From a fuel perspective, we just, if those expenses get too high, you just stay at a single area a little bit longer than what you normally would. You just don't travel around quite as much. So those variables and those costs can be a little bit more managed. You still have the same maintenance. You probably have more maintenance than a fifth wheel or an RV. You still have similar costs. Whether you've have financed your vehicle or your RV, or whether you need to, get a mobile RV guy to, do repairs for you on the road. A lot of the same, it's a lot of the same items. It's just the buckets have kind of shifted, in different areas.
So I'm assuming you guys aren't dirt bagging it. You've still got your medical insurance and all that normal stuff that people have. It's just now the home's got wheels underneath it, as opposed to having foundations brick and mortar foundations underneath it.
That's correct. I mean, our domicile is in Florida, so we're registered as citizens in the state of Florida, and that's where our health insurance is, our taxes, everything. So that's why we tend to go back to Florida every winter, is to see our doctors, do the yearly checkups. You do have some hiccups on the road that, last summer, my daughter broke her arm. We had to go to the emergency. Luckily, the insurance covered the emergency room visit, but for any follow-ups, we had to do that in Florida. I didn't want to go to Florida in the summer. Florida's great in the winter, but not in the summer. So, some of those expenses we had to make the choice to pay out of pocket versus traveling back to Florida, and that's what we did.
Wow. And so, how did you manage that conversation with your boss? Because or did you just quit your job? As you what happened when you sold the house and went to Florida for that first winter? Did you quit your job? Was it a unique conversation with your boss? How did that pan out for you?
So when we went full time, I was a manager for a healthcare company doing software development, and I had worked remotely, meaning from my home, from 15 years to that. So again, my, where just kind of shifted, not necessarily what I was doing, but I think it was 8 months or maybe less into traveling full time, I actually got laid off. And I believe the primary reason of getting off was not only because I was middle management and, they were doing cuts, but I think also too the fact that I was, not in a home, and I was moving around. So that, everybody has a different philosophy on it. I think employers get a little nervous about people traveling around, being remote worked, because they don't understand it, and that it's not something that can be controlled. And it is what it is. But actually, that was probably a good thing that occurred for me, because I was able to, at that same point in time, just a couple of months prior to that, I was already beginning the thought process of what is now Venture Wipes. Venture Wipes turned into me having a full-time job and also working Venture Wipes to I'm all in. And basically, to be honest with you, again, God has his way of working, and sometimes we don't understand that, but now I definitely do, because if I wouldn't have been laid off, I don't think I would have ever quit. I'm just not that type of person.
You'd never believe the amount of business owners I've spoken to who had to get to the point of either being not sacked, but like retrenched or laid off, or the firm they're working for has irritated them so much that they hate the firm that much. They quit and have nothing to go to. And then they start their business. But all of them say if their job had been great and kept them, they probably wouldn't have left.
Right. Yeah, I'm a workaholic, so I enjoy working. It's never an issue for me.
I love it. What's been that? What have been some of the biggest learnings that you've had from working for a firm to owning your own firm and working in it? Like that's quite a steep learning curve.
It definitely is. It's scary at times, because you still got the bills to pay.
Yep.
You still got expenses. That's probably the biggest fear is there going to be money to put food on the table for your family? The working aspect of it wasn't hard. In fact, for me, over the last couple of years, I've learned that I need to shut it off at times and enjoy the family, enjoy outside, and enjoy everything that this world has to offer. Gotten much better at that. Instead of sitting behind a computer 12 hours a day or 15 hours a day or what have you. So yeah, I think that if you're a disciplined person with good work ethic, that part of it's not hard. It's just getting over the fear of, will I be able to provide for my family? And so far, we've been able to do that.
Hell yeah, that's incredible. It's up until COVID, I often wondered whether or not having a job was safer, I suppose, than owning my own business. And I've owned my own businesses now for 17 years. But I always had that question in the back of my head. And then when I saw so many friends and different people get laid off and retrenched throughout COVID and still don't have a job today, some of them have been 18 months now without a job. And I actually think, you know what? Actually, owning your own business is safe. If I need extra money this month, I can just go work harder and I can make more money. Maybe we do more coaching, more whatever it may well be from my side. And I can just go and make that more money, which I could never really do when I had a job. Like you might get overtime if you're lucky, but most firms weren't very interested in overtime. They just want you to hit your targets and they don't care how many hours in the week you work. So I actually reckon that we're in the safest place now because you've got complete control of your family's future.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And you're rewarded for how hard you work. And you can see the results of that versus, the corporation or the company that you work for. So absolutely agree. During the COVID time, we did get a little nervous. We were just ramping up our retailers and more and more retailers come on board. And then COVID hit and all of a sudden the retailers are like, we're closed. Unfortunately we can't order because we're closed. But then the online just went crazy. So, luckily the online was able to pick up for what we lost in retailers during the COVID period. And, so far, knock on wood, as of the first of the year, the retailers are coming back online, and new retailers are opening up, and things are continuing to grow.
That's incredible. So, what was it that triggered you to start Venture Wipes? I mean, every good business owner normally solves a problem for themselves first, and then realizes there's a whole bunch of other people who could do with the same problem being solved for them. So, what was it for you with Venture Wipes?
So Venture Wipes is made up of two families that are both full-time RVers. And it just happened to be one of those opportunities that God brought us together. I don't know how else to say it. I was walking into the lodge of one of the RV parks that we were at as the other family was walking out, and I could tell that something was kind of perplexed, and they were looking at their bicycles and looking at a bike rack, and I just looked at them and said, if you're looking for a bike rack, I have one. I'll give you one. And they came over, and things just blossomed from there. We were the first full-time family that they had met on the road. They were just beginning their road journey as well. And it's amazing what happens after sitting around a campfire and talking and kind of tossing things around. And Venture Wipes was formed from that. We knew that we wanted to form something for, we were looking at ourselves whenever you're boondocking, whenever you're out hiking or biking, and you just want to take a shower or get rinsed off, and the alternative is baby wipes, and baby wipes just don't cut it for you. Nobody wants to smell like a baby, and nobody wants to be feel all greased up like a baby either. So that's kind of where it started. We knew that we needed to create a product that was better for the market, better for those like us that love to go on adventures and hiking and biking and RVing and camping and everything that the outdoors has to offer without having to go home dirty or be dirty after the fact. We provided an opportunity to clean ourselves up, and that was exactly what happened. I mean, it took well over a year to after the concept was thought up to actually develop it. The biggest challenge, there was probably two of the biggest challenges. Number one, every manufacturer just wanted to make us a baby wipe and put a new label on it. Yep. That's not our purpose. Number two, we wanted something that was a 12 by 12 wipe, not 8 by 8 like most baby wipes. And we had a tough time trying to find the piece of equipment that would cut a 12 by 12 piece of material for us, because most of the machines are already set at an 8 by 8. And then the biggest thing was packaging. We wanted it to be an individual packet that you could stick in your pocket, stick in your backpack, stick in your purse, whatever. And you always know that you have a fresh, wet wipe. And that was another challenge. Everybody wanted to, put it in a pool pack for us. Well, we all know that the pool packs are great. You pull out the first couple, but then once you get to the end, they're all dried out. We wanted them to be individual. And we had trouble with the folding. Again, the equipment and machinery, most of them could get it folded down to about the size of $1, but we had trouble trying to get it folded down to the size of a credit card. That one more fold. That's what took us a year to do. And I'm happy to announce that as of this month, we're going to start manufacturing them here in the USA.
Hey, that's incredible.
It is incredible because we finally have gotten the equipment here in the United States.
Yeah, I'm struggling to believe that equipment wasn't already in place in the United States.
I couldn't find it. I mean, I must have reached out to over 60, 70 manufacturers that manufacture wipes, and none of them could do it.
Wow. So are you guys now manufacturing yourself, or are you going to outsource the manufacturing, or what's the plan?
We're still outsourcing. I mean, we're not that big yet to where we take it on ourselves, but we've definitely made the investment into the manufacturing facility, into the equipment, into the material, into everything to get it here in the United States.
That is absolutely fantastic. I'm a firm believer that buying from local is the way forwards, and shipping stuff halfway around the world really doesn't really doesn't do it for me anymore personally. I was
yeah, I mean, you're exactly right, and from day one we wanted it here, made in the USA, but unfortunately there was just no resources to do that. So we're ecstatic about it. We're happy about it, and we're ready to have all of our products made here in the United States.
Yeah, I won't mention any names, but I was looking at an outdoor clothing firm the other week, and they're looking for investors, and they make a big song and dance about clothing made from alpaca hair, basically, or llama hair, very high quality. So it's like merino wool, and they're making a big song and dance about how sustainable it is and all these fancy words. But when you actually track it, they harvest it in South America. It gets processed in Taiwan. The garments get manufactured in China, and then they get sent to the US for distribution. And I'm like, which bit of that's sustainable, and which bit of that's keeping jobs for local families in your state? Like, that just doesn't. It seems like a very weird way of going about business, where if we were creative, we can do what you're doing, which is saying, actually, no, employing people in the United States is important to us. Sustainability is important to us, and we must be able to find a way close to home.
And you're so right. I mean, you don't know how many brokers that I reached out to that said, yes, we can do it here in the United States. And then you dive deeper and get 2-3 months into it, and you say, okay, where's your manufacturing facility physically located? Oh, well, we have it shipped over here in the United States. Then we'll rebox it and put it. And I'm like, no, that's not our product.
Yep.
So I get it.
Oh, I've lost you there, Tom.
Yes, I'm here.
Sorry, I lost you then for a second. Cool. Right, let's move on for Venture Wipes for a bit. One of the things I'm curious about is, what is it from having a fixed home that you miss and don't miss?
I can't say that I miss anything. When we had our house, our last house, it was 12 acres on the side of a mountain, had a gorgeous view over it was in Pennsylvania, over the Susquehanna River. We made that house look very resort kind of stylish. It had a pond with a paddle boat, and had lots of ATV trails, and we did everything that we enjoy whenever we were on vacation.
Yeah.
However, to be honest with you, we were never there to enjoy any of those things. Or did we want to be there because we were always traveling? Um, so, so I can't say that there's, necessarily anything that, I miss about having a house. Because every time we returned from a vacation, we were immediately planning the next one.
And I guess you get home to a month's worth of the grass not being cut, the next thing needs painting, and something else is broken, so on and so forth.
Exactly. While you're there, all you're doing is working. Either you're working because that's your job, or you're working to maintain the property or the house, or it's just, it's not enjoy. Whenever you think back upon it, life was not enjoyable. Life was a job. In every aspect of it.
So what do you do for vacation now? Or is life a vacation? How do you get that? Have you managed to get like the perfect blend of exploring family and work, or how do you manage it?
So we still, essentially we're always on vacation.
Oh, shut up.
but we definitely do have defined moments that we say, okay, this is our vacation. Prior to COVID, we would go take a cruise, 2 or 3 times a year, where you're physically shutting things off, being on a cruise ship, you're away from the elements, you have people catering to you. That was easy for us to kind of take a vacation at that point in time. With it being COVID, or I'm not even sure if it's past COVID anymore or still COVID, or, it's a little bit more difficult. We do pick certain destination places where we'll go into an RV park that's a little bit more resort style. So like this, we spent 2 weeks down in Key West, Florida, so we kind of called that our vacation. We were able to enjoy, aside from going on a cruise ship, that's about as close as you can get to feeling like you're in a Caribbean island.
Yep.
We enjoyed those amenities. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were, our RV was getting repair work done to it because we actually got rear-ended while we were in Florida. So we took it back to the manufacturer for them to fix it. And we were out of our RV for a little over 2.5 months. So during that time, we spent 3 weeks up in Alaska. We flew to Alaska and basically hoteled it and, used the car during that period of time. So, we just kind of pick various destination points and this is our vacation,
What goes into the planning of, so you said you like to spend most winters in Florida, but when you're looking ahead this winter to the 2022 summer, is it you who decides like where we should all go to with the fifth wheel, or is it your own wife, or do you get the kids involved? How does that work?
So this winter, so far, what we plan for Florida is a bunch of doctor appointments. So our winters in Florida aren't vacations; they're essentially opportunities to get caught up with life and doctor appointments and your eye exam, your dental exams, your yearly checkups, what have you. So that's about as far as we plan for Florida for this winter. Hopefully we'll get a chance to get down to the Keys again, and spend a couple of weeks down there again. I know my kids are anxious to go to Disney World, and we'll kind of see how that environment is. I know that last year it wasn't necessarily the best environment into given COVID. See how that is again, this winter, that maybe that'll be an opportunity for them to get to Disney World again. But to answer your question, I mean, essentially this winter, Florida, our main focus is, let's get the doctor appointments knocked out so that we can go back to enjoying life.
Yeah. And then when it comes to thinking, because obviously at some point in time, you're going to think about the summer of 2022. Do you, as a family, have a process for working out where you're going to go to and what you're going to do for that summer? Because I'm assuming you're going to, like this summer, you've been Idaho and all over the place. Is that a family decision, or do you have a bucket list, or how do you go about working out where to go next?
That's a great question. I mean, prior to this summer, our focus was getting all 50 states, getting our children to see all 50 states. So now that has been checked off, I think it's now a matter of, okay, let's go back to some of our favorites and enjoy them. We definitely, there's a long list of favorites. Utah and Colorado and Arizona and Idaho and even Montana and Wyoming again, Maine, New Hampshire. There's a long list of favorites. We haven't thought that far ahead quite yet, but that's definitely something that we need to think about here soon, and start planning for.
And do you get your kids involved with the sort of day-to-day running of the fifth wheel? Everything from navigation to hitching, unhitching, I don't know, whatever else is involved with it. Is that what you view part of their education to be, or how does that work?
My 5-year-old is probably more engaged in that than my 12-year-old. Again, my 12-year-old is autistic, so.
Oh, sorry.
It's trying to comprehend some of that is, just it doesn't work sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back upon a story from I think it was 3 years ago. We went to Hawaii. And there was a moment that we looked at both of our children and we said, do you realize how lucky you are that, probably most of your friends from school will never, ever get an opportunity to come to Hawaii? And they both just kind of looked at us like, what are you talking about? This is just another day, So I don't know that they necessarily understand or appreciate how lucky they are to have the life that they have, and traveling and getting a chance to see all of this, because they've never experienced the other side of it. So that's something that we're trying to be more intentional with, that they can understand, what these experiences really are, because it's not normal to most people out there.
I agree. It's not normal at all. I'm not saying that in a bad. I was almost saying that in a sorrowful way. It's not normal at all, because almost anybody can achieve it if they really set their mind to it. But How do you and your wife manage the kids' schooling? You said you homeschool, but getting more granular than that, do you have a set routine of the day? Is there a set amount of work you want them to achieve in a week? And how do you manage being both mum, dad, and teacher at the same time?
Yeah, definitely. I got to give my wife credit for the homeschooling. I definitely try to help out whenever I can, but she is definitely the homeschooler. She is definitely the teacher. And that's a routine of, every morning they pull out their school books. They know what chapters they need to complete. And she's there to help and to mentor and to teach them through those chapters every day. We do tend to take off during the summertime, like most schools do, to give them a break from school. Their break is not necessarily a 3-month break like most of them are. It tends to be like a month or, a month and a half, because we take, you take breaks during the year, so like over the Thanksgiving, time period, if we're visiting family during that period, we'll take a week off there, and over Christmas, take off, a couple of weeks, and over Easter, take off a week or two. But essentially, the good part for them is they don't know it that, a lot of the field trips that we're taking, they're learning without it being a forced learn, I guess you could say, or a textbook learn. They're learning every day in some aspects, because we stay very active in, field trips and exploring and hiking and going out and enjoying life. So,
I think that's interesting. You're saying that because what you're saying is that it's I often think a lot of parents are very passive in their parenting. They almost outsource parenting by, send your kids to school and then the kids go to aftercare and then the kids come home and they're exhausted and they eat and go to sleep. And well, then so the parents don't really do anything active with their kids Monday through Friday. And then at the weekends, often kids get fobbed off to go and do other things. And what you're really saying, I think, is that you're intentionally much more active as parents than the average parents are.
Yeah, I mean, being in this environment, we're forced, and I'm not saying forced in a bad way, but forced in a good way to have that interaction. It's not a school field trip. It's a family field trip. Yeah,
it's interesting. When I was at school, I learned all about the British colonies and India and how we colonized basically most of the world. We had a good crack at, and it was mildly interesting. But a few years ago, when my dad came out to South Africa, we went to the Zulu battlefields where the English and the Zulus had a massive battle, and the Zulus annihilated the whole of the British battalion that was there. And when I say annihilated, I mean they just killed all of them. And suddenly, when you're stood on that battlefield and you're taking what's in the book and seeing it for reality, and somebody's telling you where the Zulus stood and what happened and how it happened, suddenly it became like history became real and it became interesting. It wasn't just something that was in a book that was abstract and weird that happened 200 years ago. It became very real. And I think more kids and more humans need to actually go and have real experiences and go to real places and touch and feel things. And actually bring that textbook into a living, breathing thing.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, whenever I was in school growing up, history was probably one of my least favorite subjects. and now, it's probably the most enjoyable one, learning about our country and how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and getting to go to those places where history was actually created is that's a really special experience.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and we try to also go to some off the wall places. It's not always state parks or national parks or things like that. Like, I remember whenever we were in South Carolina, my wife found she found a site where an atomic bomb had fallen back in I think it was back in the 60s.
Holy smoke.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't detonate, but it had fallen and created a 30-foot deep and 30-foot circumference crater. So there's you're never going to hear about that in a textbook, and then diving into it and learning more about it, that back in that era, there was actually 2 or 3 others that had occurred as well. I never learned about that in high school or grade school. So it's neat to kind of, see some of the off the wall or some of the unique history points as well.
Jeepers, that just begs the question about what could have been if that atomic bomb had gone bang. That you wouldn't, Jeepers, South Carolina wouldn't look like it does today.
You're 100% correct. Yep.
Oh my word, that blows my small little brain. Crikey. So when you first went on the road and started living in your fifth wheel, what were some of those learning or transition moments that you had as a family where, as you said, you went from living in 7,000 square feet to 400 square feet and a house that moves and so on and so forth? What were some of those big learning moments that you had?
I get asked that question quite a bit, is how can you live in something that small? And I don't live, yes, I live in the RV that's 400 square feet, but I don't live in it. I live outside. We move into climates that are, where you can stay outside and spend a lot of your time outside. I sleep in the RV. We try to eat outside. We try to get out and enjoy life. So, probably some of the biggest things were, was just, our kids' bedroom, rather than it being, 20 feet from our bedroom door, and at home, it was on the second floor where you couldn't hear any activities, so I think probably the biggest thing is, just kind of understanding and being aware of your surroundings, and whenever the kids are up in the morning, we're all up, because we you either feel them jumping in the back, or you hear them talking and giggling or what have you. So there's little things like that, but those are all, I can't say that any of those are negative things.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I just wondered, that going for a normal life with normal schools and whatever else. But it sounds, to be honest, Tom, that while your life may have seemed normal, actually with the quantity of vacations that you're having and the working from home aspect, that actually you were already half transitioned to what you're doing now when you actually went and started doing it.
Yeah, I mean, a good example was, this interview today. I had to kick my family out of the RV so that they are not. But I didn't hear anybody cry as they're off to the pool this afternoon either. So,
yep. Well, I take the pool, so I'm with them.
Right.
You may have been asked this question before. In fact, I rather suspect you have been. But for our listeners out there, I would guess that there's a lot of them who've got one day I'd like to live on a sailboat in the Caribbean with my family. One day I'd like to live in an RV. One day I'd like to travel the world. I don't know, a one day. And what advice do you have for them taking that one day dream and turning it into today's reality over the next several years for themselves?
The biggest thing is I can say is just, one day will never come if you continue to say one day. You got to put a plan in place and make it happen. Life is too short. And if you ask, the American dream is you work until you retire and then you buy an RV and you go and do this. And every one of them that I run into at a campground and you talk to them and you ask them, is there any regrets that they have or anything they would do differently? Every single one of them will tell you they wish they would have done it sooner, because now they're at an age where they're having a tough time getting up the steps. They're having a tough time going out for a hike. They're having a tough time moving around. And now they have the time, but they don't have the physical presence to be able to do that. It's sad to see over and over again.
It is. It's interesting. Something that you said earlier that I've experienced in my life that I've lived around the world since the age of 18, and you said sort of God provides or God provides you with the opportunities, and you almost have to have. It's not just bravery; it's a degree of faith that you can make it work. And of course, that comes with intelligence and work ethic and all sorts of other things. But you have to trust in something bigger than yourself, I think, that it will be fine and you'll make it work. Because if you don't, I don't think anybody will ever go and take that next step. They'll just keep following the rest of the sheep in a line until they retire.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, there's some people that, can do it strictly on faith. And there's others that, need to plan and have a course of action, and more discipline to make it happen. But, regardless of, what characteristic you're in or under, you got to do it, constantly saying one day, that one day will never happen unless you make it happen.
I agree with you 100%. So the best advice somebody gave to me was draw a line in the sand, make that line in the sand a date in your schedule, and tell the rest of the world that you're doing this on that date. And then you put a gun against your own head and you've got to go make it work.
Right. Yep. So yeah, I honestly can't say that ours happened through faith and happened through also taking a plan of action. I think that if I would have forced my wife and my kids into this, lifestyle, I'm not sure that any of us would have been happy. But, by saying, hey, let's just go try it for 3 or 4 months and see what happens, I think was the best decision that we could have made. Because after that 4 months, it was very clear that this was the life that we wanted to live.
Yeah, and if it wasn't, you still got a house if you needed it, and you could come up with a different variation of a new life to go live and go and try that as well.
Right. Yep.
I often think all too often people are looking for the answer as opposed to maybe treating your life a little bit like an experiment or an adventure even, and trying different things until you find the things that work best for you.
You're right. Life is always an adventure, right?
I think life gets very boring and very depressed for most people if you don't treat it as an adventure and go and go and push to see where those edges really are. Like how far can you actually? Well, I suppose what I'm curious about inside of myself is what is that level of capacity that I actually have inside of myself, and it's just a question mark after that because I honestly haven't got to the edge of it yet. But I'll never find it if I just live in the same place, doing the same thing, working for the same person, and never keep or stop adventuring and exploring and taking risks to see what happens on the other side. You'll never find out what you're really potential of and what your potential is. And I think that's a crying shame. And maybe even the world would be a much better place if more people did go and push themselves to take a bit of a step further and find out what their real potential is.
I can't agree more.
So all of these things being said, my final question for you is, firstly, it's a two-part question. So it's about the future. What are you looking for the future of Venture Wipes to look like? And then the second part is, what are you seeing in the future for yourself and your family being on the road? I don't know. What does the next 5 to 10 years look like?
That's a great question. As far as Venture Wipe goes, we're continuing to grow the brand. We're coming out with new products. We're in the development stages of several of those products right now. By next spring, we'll have a sunscreen wipe. We're also working on a pet wipe right now, and a few other products that we got in the works as well. So, for Venture Wipes, it's just continue to move forward, continue to be innovative, and develop new products that we believe that the world needs and can enjoy. As far as us personally as a family, I think we would like to do some international travel. Sadly, right now isn't the time for that.
No.
But hopefully at some point in time we can, come to Spain and visit your little village and, go to Australia and, all those other fun places that in the world that are unique and we can learn about them. But for now, we have no ambition to stop doing what we're doing. Even though we've seen all 50 states, there's still so much that we haven't seen. And we're looking forward to going back to our favorite areas and spending more time in those areas and seeing the all the various things that we haven't seen and explored yet.
Yeah, with 50 states to play with, that's the rest of your life taken care of, surely.
Yes.
Fantastic. So, Tom, is there anything that you'd like to say in closing to our audience? Any words of inspiration or guidance or thoughts or things that you'd like them to go and do differently or maybe just, I don't know, stretch themselves slightly further?
Life's short and life's an adventure. Treat it as one and go out and enjoy it. We only get one life to live, and it's up to us on how we make that happen.
Fantastic. Well, Tom Fromm, thank you very much for your time today. Thanks for being an inspiration and being a guiding light for families out there who want to live life in in a way that other people might frown about, but frankly will put a smile on their face. So thanks for being that guiding light and that inspiration. And in particular, from Mark's and my side, it's not very often we get to go and talk to business owners who get to have a lifestyle that's flexible and movable, but equally run a decent business at the same time. So from us, thank you for being one of the very few people we get to talk to who actually achieves that for themselves. So thanks for everything that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys doing what you do as well.
That's fantastic. So ladies and gents who are listening, if you want to check out Venture Wipes, you want to check out Tom and his family, any of that stuff, please go and look in the description below. We'll pop all of their links for the social media, websites, everything else down there. And Tom, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person when I'm allowed to fly again.
Me too. I can't wait.
Cool.